Hello, I am Sherlock Emma, and today we are going to solve the mystery of English grammar. So specifically, I will teach you about modals, past modals in English. I'll tell you what a modal is, and then we will look at the modals may have, might have, could have, and must have. This is a book. This book is titled The Complete Adventures and Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is a character in a book. He is a detective, and he solves different mysteries and crimes. So when I was reading this book, I was inspired. I thought, Sherlock Holmes uses some really good English that we use a lot today. Specifically, Sherlock Holmes uses a type of grammar called modals. We all use modals. You probably know a few modals right now. So today's lesson has been inspired by Sherlock Holmes. We're going to learn about modals. What is a modal? Well, there are different types of modals. Let me give you some examples. Sherlock Holmes can't be Canadian because he is from England. Can't is a modal. Many of you will already know the word can't. Enola Holmes must be Sherlock Holmes' sister. Must is another example of a modal. So this one you may or may not know, but it's a common modal in English. Watson may be the best partner in the whole world. That's what I think. Watson is Sherlock Holmes's partner in the book. May is another example of a modal. People will read Sherlock Holmes 100 years from now. It's that good of a series and that good of a book. I think 100 years from now, people will read Sherlock Holmes. Do you agree? Well, I'll tell you this. Will is another example of a modal. Will is one of the modals learners of English first learn. So these are some modals you might already know. Now we're going to learn some modals we can use in the past tense. The modals that people like Sherlock Holmes use frequently. Okay, so let's solve this English grammar mystery of modals. These modals all take place in the past. So they are modals of the past. Let's look at some examples and then we'll talk about what each of these mean. Watson must have gone to the store. Professor Moriarty might have lied. Irene Adler may have escaped. Sherlock Holmes couldn't have been a bad guy. So what do you notice about all of these sentences? Well, first of all, they all have a modal word. We have must, might, may, and couldn't. These are all modals. We also have the word have with each of them. Must have, might have, may have, couldn't have. And finally, with all of these sentences, we also have the third form of the verb, gone, which is the third verb form of go. Lied, that's the third form of lie. Escaped, this is the third verb form of escape. And been, which is the third verb form of be. So we'll talk about each of these in a moment, but what does this all mean? Well, we use modals, past modals, in different ways. These past modals are all examples of certainty, how certain we are of something. So, for example, Watson must have gone to the store. Where do we think Watson is? Well, I think he's at the store. How confident am I he's at the store? How certain am I? Well, because I use the word must, I'm very certain, maybe 99% sure. Maybe Watson wrote a note. I'm going to the store. So I'm very certain. What about the next sentence? Professor Moriarty might have lied. When I use the word might, I'm not so certain. Maybe it's possible he lied. There's a possibility, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. Maybe. So might is like the maybe in this situation. Irene Adler may have escaped. How sure or how certain am I this is true? I don't know if this is true. That's why I use the word may. So again, it's possible it's true, but I don't know. What about the last one? Sherlock Holmes couldn't have been a bad guy. He couldn't have been. This shows more that it's looking close to impossible or unlikely. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each of these, must have, might have, may have, couldn't have, and we're going to see more examples of how to use them and what they mean. Let's start with must have. So when we have must have and our verb in the past participle form, which we will talk about in a minute, it means we are talking about the past. So must have means we're talking about the past, and we are talking about a situation we are pretty sure, we're pretty certain it happened. Okay, so is this true? Yes, we're pretty sure it's true. So let's look at some examples of this. Emma, so that's me, was born in Toronto. Emma must have experienced a cold winter. We know Canada has cold weather. Toronto is in Canada. So we're pretty certain, well, I'm 100% certain, but you might be pretty certain that I have experienced cold weather because I am Canadian. So this is how you would use this. Emma was born in Toronto. Toronto's a cold city. Emma must have lived and experienced a cold winter. Let's look at another example. So this one, I'm thinking about you guys. I might ask, why did you watch this video? Why did you watch this video? You must have wanted to learn English. So this is something I'm pretty sure about. I'm certain that people watching this video want to learn English. So because of that, I use must have. And the third form, or the past participle, third form, past participle are the same thing. So wanted is an example of the past participle of want. You must have wanted to learn English. So that's an example of must have. Let's look at another one. I have a friend. She is always late. And the reason she's always late is because she likes to sleep in. Sometimes she turns off her alarm, or there's a problem with the volume on her alarm, so she sleeps in a lot. She sleeps late. So what I could say about this friend is, ugh, she is late again. Why is she late? Well, she must have slept in. She sleeps in every day. So here's another example of must have. I'll give you one more. It's not on the board, but you know I'm a teacher. So let's use must have. Do you think I went to school to become a teacher? Emma is a teacher. We know that teachers have to go to school to learn how to teach. So what we can say is Emma must have studied teaching at school. And that's true. So this is an example of using must have. We're talking about a past situation that we are certain or pretty certain is true. Now let's look at situations where we're not so certain. There's more of a maybe. Okay, so now we're looking at modals of possibility where we are not 100% certain. We're thinking, maybe this is true. So we're going to look at might have, may have, and could have. All of these will then be followed by a past participle, which I'll show you. But what all of these mean, they have the same meaning. They all mean that we are talking about the past and we are talking about a situation in the past we think maybe happened. We're not 100% sure. We think, it's possible. So let's look at some examples. So I come home, or yesterday I came home and there was no pizza. The pizza was eaten. Who ate the pizza yesterday? I don't know. I wasn't at home to see. But if I think about it, I have a dog. The dog may have eaten the pizza. Or maybe my brother James came over when I wasn't home, and maybe my brother James, he may have eaten the pizza. Maybe my sister Audra may have eaten the pizza. Oh, but she couldn't have. She lives in the United States. So this is how we use may have. You'll notice we have may, have, and then our past participle. What verb is this? Well, if you said eat, you are correct. Eat, ate is the past tense, and eaten is the past participle of eat. Okay, great. So the dog may have eaten the pizza. Let's look at the next mystery. Oh, this is a big mystery. Who shot John F. Kennedy? Well, let me think. I don't know. Maybe it might have been the mafia. Actually, I think it was Lee Harvey Oswald, but maybe there was a conspiracy. Maybe it might have been the mafia. So I'm saying this because I don't know. I'm not certain. This is a possibility. There are many possibilities. And we're using this because we're talking about the past. And again, we have might. We could put may here. We put could. All of these are possible. Then we have. And then we have our past participle, been. Been is the past participle of what verb? Be. So be is the infinitive. Been is the past participle. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so the robber or the thief left the country. So there was a robber. He robbed a bank. Where is the robber? I don't know. Maybe the robber could have flown away. Maybe the robber could have left Canada and gone to Hawaii. I don't know where the robber is. So this again shows a possibility. Where is the robber? I don't know. Maybe he could have left the country. So we have could, we have, and left is the past participle of leave. So leave is the present tense. I am leaving, I leave. Left is the past participle. So again, you can change could, might, may. They all have the same meaning. That can change, but you need to keep the have and whatever past participle you need for your sentence. Okay, so now let's look at impossibility. All right, so now we are going to look at couldn't have and can't have. So we have can't have, couldn't have. When we have that with a past participle, what does this mean? Well, can't have and couldn't have are the modals we use to talk about a past situation we do not believe is true. We don't think it's possible. So a past situation we don't believe is true. So let's look at some examples of this. Bill couldn't have taken the money. So this means I don't think Bill took the money. So imagine we're at school, the money disappears. Who took the money? Well, it can't be Bill. Why not? Well, Bill wasn't there that day. Maybe Bill was sick. So I can say Bill couldn't have taken the money because Bill was sick. So here's an example of a situation that happened in the past, and I'm saying I don't think Bill did it. And notice we have our past participle here, taken. So taken is the past participle of take. Take, took, taken. All right, let's look at another example. I like this example because before I became an English teacher, I studied archaeology. So I love history. I love ancient Egypt. Now, this is something I hear from people. Aliens couldn't have built the pyramids. I'm happy when people say this. And I agree. I don't think it's possible aliens built the pyramids. I don't think aliens built the pyramids. This is not true. So what I can say is we're talking about the past. The pyramids were built a long time ago. I can say aliens couldn't have built the pyramids. I think Egyptians, ancient Egyptians must have built the pyramids. And then notice we have the word here, built. So we have couldn't, have, and built. Built is the past participle of build. Okay, let's look at one last example of this. My sister Audra. Some people said Audra was at a hockey game in Toronto last night. Now, I don't believe this is true. Audra was definitely not at a hockey game last night. How do I know? Well, Audra can't have been at a hockey game last night because she lives in the USA and she would have called me. So I know Audra was not in Toronto. She couldn't have been in Toronto last night. She lives in the United States. So again, we're talking about a situation from the past, a hockey game last night. And I'm saying that I don't think Audra went. This is not true. Audra did not go to the hockey game. So I can say Audra couldn't have, or Audra can't have gone to the hockey game last night. And again, in this case, we're using can't. We could have used couldn't. Can't or couldn't are both possible. We have, and then we have the past participle been. Been is the past participle of be. Okay, great. So we've covered a lot today. Oh, What's this? Let me solve this mystery and take a look. Okay. It says www.engvid.com. I wonder who could have written this. It must have been Teacher Emma, which is me. I must have written this on the board. Why did I write this? It may have been because I want to invite you to take our quiz. At www.engvid.com, you can find a quiz on everything you learned here, and you can practice making sentences with must have, could have, can't have, may have, and might have. Remember, practice makes perfect. The best way to learn something is to practice. So please take our quiz and also subscribe to my channel. We have a lot of different videos on many topics related to English, including grammar, listening, pronunciation, vocabulary, and so much more. So until next time, I hope we will solve some more mysteries together, and take care.